Okay, in this second part of exponential functions, we're going to be looking at the graphs of exponential functions. Now, this is the generic form of this graph. So a times b to the x, it's going to cross your y-axis right here at a. Now, if there is no a, that means a is equal to 1. And so your standard, if you just have, let's say we have y equals 5 to the x, you're always going to cross at 1 because in this case that a is equal to 1. But if you have an a value, it's just going to shift the y-intercept up or down depending on what this a is. Now, so that's what your a does. B will determine how fast you're going up or how slowly it's decaying. If b is between 0 and 1, if b is a fraction less than 1, then you're actually going to flip this on the y-axis and you're going to come this direction, but you're going to keep that same y-intercept. Now our h and k, once we've determined what our normal graph looks like, the h and k is going to be shifting it left and right in the case of h, or up and down with the k. So once we've determined, for example, let's draw a new graph here. Once we've determined where it's going to cross, say this is my a, but let's say my h is 3, then we're going to go ahead and shift this over 3. And so now my a value is going to be there. And let's say my k is -2. So we're going to drop down depending on where that a is. So now my new axis here, well, now my graph is going to be crossing here, and it's going to look something like that, with my new asymptote no longer now being the x-axis. Now my new asymptote is going to be at -2. Just because my k is -2. So your k is going to determine your horizontal asymptote, your a is going to determine where it's crossing that axis, but your h is going to shift it left and right depending on what that h is. So that's kind of a quick introduction with how you graph. Get used to the h and k. You're going to find on a lot of the graphing that we do when it comes to hyperbolas, when it comes to parabolas, circles, ellipses, that h and k is always going to tell you where it's shifting. H is always your horizontal shift, k is always your vertical shift. Get used to that terminology because it's going to show up over and over and over again. And once you determine that that's the case, and you'll notice we're always at -h, because if h is positive, then you're going to shift to the right. So you're going to have x -3 is going to shift it to the right. If we have x plus 3, then it's actually going to shift to the left because it's minus the h. Anyway, hopefully that's helpful to you. I know that gets a little bit confusing, but once you get used to that h and k and what happens when we're shifting those h and k's, it will make a lot of sense, but get used to it. And you're also going to find that when you get used to the graphing the exponential functions, being able to graph the logarithmic functions later on is going to become much easier because the rules are very, very similar. The graphs are going to look a little bit different, but the rules are going to be very similar. So hopefully that's helpful to you. If so, please like and subscribe. And as always, pass this video on to those that might be helpful to. And thanks for watching.